Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more relationship stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. Let's crack on with today's first story, which comes from the wedding drama subreddit and says, "My dad is pretending I'm not getting married." So my dad has always been a very show-off person. Announcements about grades, telling everyone how great his daughters are doing, telling off my sister for having a job he can't show off. When he divorced from my mum, he was a good parent for a while, and then he met Eva. Eva is way younger, has had a lot of work done, and used to send him flirty messages when he was still married. They got married very early on in the relationship because they've known each other for ages. She told him not to text us too much because we are adults. She checks his phone all the time. She forbade him from seeing us Christmas Day or St. Stephen's Day because he needed to be with his new family. And it would have been disrespectful to her for him to see his ex-wife, and she's overall been an absolute nightmare. And he follows everything she tells him to do. Now, I'm getting married and told my dad he's invited but she is not. I've met the woman once and I don't like her. Plus, I know my father isn't a great person, and he'd be making jabs at my mum about being older than Eva, etc. To make it fair, my mum's boyfriend is also not invited, although he's a sweetheart. My dad's answer to my invite has been to pretend nothing is happening. I sent him a save the date, and he sent me a thumbs up emoji. He hasn't asked me one question about the wedding, not even the venue. Even though he told me shortly before meeting Eva that he was looking forward to me and my sister getting married and how excited he was. Myself and my fiance are different religions and cultures, so everyone's had lots of questions about how we're handling that. Turns out he hasn't told Eva I'm getting married, and he hasn't told anyone else, so he's just planning to say he has a work trip and come to the wedding. I don't actually think he's going to show up. I think he will say he's going to and then not show at the last minute, but my sister thinks he'll show up with her and make a whole scene because he told her Eva has just as much right to be there as your mum. Anyone else dealt with something similar? Do I need a backup to walk me down the aisle? And there was a couple of comments where OP gives a bit of extra information. So someone says, "I just want to point out that your dad is in an abusive relationship. His new wife is cutting him off from his family, his support system, so she can have more control over him. He probably won't be allowed to go to the wedding because she's not invited, and probably wouldn't have been allowed to even if she was. Your dad is an arsehole on his own, but I think it's important to recognize that he's still capable of being abused and that it is happening." OP says yes, they both suck. He has always been a cheater, at least 3 other women during the span of 10 years that we have evidence of. And I think, no evidence, he was cheating on my mum with her, so that's why she's constantly monitoring his phone and not allowing him to leave the house. We told him not to marry her and that her behavior is very concerning, but he seems very blind. Another commenter says, "It sounds like he wants to come and he knows the only way him coming without his wife is possible is if he lies about it. He's risking getting caught to be able to go, which speaks volumes about their relationship, but if she checks his phone, you're causing your father further risk of her finding out if you keep messaging him about the wedding. Stick to the phone call so there's no record. I hope he can make it and there's no drama." OP says, "I rang him the first time to tell him I was getting married and then sent him the save the date the second time asking if he was coming. I didn't know that he hadn't told her at the time. I've no idea why the wife wouldn't let him go to his daughter's wedding, though she's amazing as he says." Then OP gives a bit of information on why the mum's boyfriend isn't invited. OP says, "Far more drama if I include him and exclude Eva. It's not worth the headache. He will for sure not show up if I invite my mum's boyfriend and not his wife. My mum understands that even though my dad is not the best dad ever, I still want him there. They aren't together that long, so she's okay with her boyfriend staying at home. Plus then he can stay with the dogs and she doesn't have to worry about getting a dog sitter. Most of the family is going as well, so there's nobody to look after them." Vile Bunny says this: 1. Invite mum's boyfriend. Good behavior is to be rewarded. 2. Ask mum to walk you down the aisle. If you feel like it, and if he shows without Eva, you can plan a father-daughter dance. 3. Hire security. If not for the church, then for the reception. Give them Eva's photo and your dad's. Label them as dad can come if not accompanied by Eva. If Eva arrives, they both get escorted out. Phoenix Dragon says I would actually uninvite him at this point. He clearly values his new piece over his own daughter. If he has to hide your wedding, then he doesn't deserve to be at your wedding. And no, his little friend doesn't have as much right to be at your wedding as your mum. That just shows how delusional he is. You should also invite your mum's boyfriend because that isn't fair to exclude him if he's good to you. Fair doesn't always mean equal. Your father is absolutely going to try and make a scene or just be a little bit of a brat if he even shows, so don't give him the chance. And one final comment from Marnurk who says, drop it, don't contact him and wait it out. Is he supposed to walk you down the aisle? If so, that's all you need to know. I'd confirm that and then back away. He's dealing with his new wife who's manipulating him behind the scenes, so do not feed into that. Wait until close to the wedding to ask him again if he's coming. If he won't answer that, then just uninvite him and ask someone else to walk you down the aisle. And let him know that he's out altogether. He's not going to come without the wife, you already know that, so either accept her there or cut them both out. Your mum should be bringing her partner as well. They are adults, invite them and let the chips fall where they may. I'm betting your mum is going to be the mature one here. She's moved on and has a new guy. Good for her. Talk to her and see what she's comfortable doing. Dad bringing his younger wife is just going to confirm to everyone there that they are not a nice couple. What kind of dad refuses to see his kids at Christmas? Shame on him for allowing that to happen. His new wife isn't done yet. I'm betting she's working on cutting all his dad's old family out of his life. The wedding will show you exactly where you stand with him. I hope it works out in your favor. So OP does come back in with an update and says, so it turns out my dad ended up telling Eva about my wedding and telling her that she was invited to the wedding to avoid problems. She got herself a dress, booked a hotel, etc. My dad tried to convince me to invite her, but his biggest selling point was that he thought it'd be an amazing time to introduce Eva to my mum and my mum's whole family. Why would he think my mum would want to meet this woman is beyond me, and that she would feel excluded otherwise. He always rubs it in our faces his new family, even calling it his new family. Keeps cancelling every dinner he sets up with my sister due to some emergency involving Eva, or tells us to call Eva mum. Both me and my sister are way beyond the point of calling some randomer mum, since we both moved out and he's being ridiculous. He called me again and again to try and convince me, and I said no, explaining that I knew the only reason he wanted to bring his wife to the wedding was to upset mum, and I wasn't going to let the two of them do that. He makes jabs at my mum every time he's around her, and how great his new wife is. I thought the whole thing was over until I sent him home some information about the wedding, and I guess he started feeling guilty and told us he booked the flight for Eva as well. And he booked himself on the same flight as my mum. Changed his whole flight plans just so he could be on the flight with her, so that my mum and Eva could still meet. AKA, he could rub his new wife in her face and try and screw with my mum's head by putting her down and making comparisons. Then Eva would just go off and shop while he was at the ceremony. I'm not sure if this is true or if he's going to try and bring her to the wedding and hope she didn't get kicked out. I'm trying to convince my mum to change her flight so he can't get inside her head 12 hours before the wedding. I don't know if I should uninvite him. Then Zoe Fiona replies to this update and says, oh my god, yes. What has your mum done that you'd facilitate hurting her? Why does he know so many details of your mum's travel plans? OP says, she's the main reason I haven't uninvited him yet. She keeps saying I need to have a relationship with him and being more understanding. He knows because he asked, and we figured he was trying to avoid being on the same flight as her. And you know, it might be Reddit brain coming out on this one, but it definitely feels like that, you know, she's just going to turn up at the wedding regardless. He's going to bring her along and it's going to cause all sorts of shit. It just always feels that way when we read these stories, and I will certainly keep an eye out for an update on that one. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and let's move on to another story. And our next story does have an update as well from a throwaway account and says, would I be the arsehole if I exposed my sister's affair to her husband? I, 30 female, caught my sister, female 40, cheating on her husband, male 49, with a guy, male 40. I was shocked because my sister and her husband are the epitome for love that never dies. Literally. They have been together for 15 years and they still look so much in love. The way they treat each other. I felt anger and despair because I love my brother-in-law as a big brother, and he has been there for my sister when she's been her worst mentally. He was there taking care of her without ever once complaining. I found out, I confronted her and she tried to deny it. I told her that she was pathetic and now she felt good about herself after her husband nursed her back to health. She is paying him with cheating on him. I told her I was going to expose her and she was begging me and crying, telling me I didn't understand. Please don't hurt us, you'll be hurting my husband more than you hurt me. After a few days she asked to meet me. She looked like she was crying the whole time. She told me that she's been keeping her husband's secret, but she wanted to tell me and made me promise not to tell anyone. Her husband is impotent and he hasn't slept with her for the majority of their relationship. I didn't believe her, so she showed me all the texts and emails she had with her husband, her therapist and her diary. He hasn't touched her for almost 12 years. Her depression was because of it and her back to health was because of this new guy. She said that since she started sleeping with him, she has been happier and by extension her marriage and her husband have been happier. I asked her why she just doesn't tell her husband. She said that she couldn't because she loves him and she couldn't hurt him. She is afraid he would be so lonely without her because he always said he had no one else in this world and he would die without her. Don't you see that we're all happy? Please don't hurt us. About the guy. She met him through work and actually is kind of a famous entrepreneur in our city. She showed me texts, etc. He's also married, but he has 3 children. He has the same problem with his sexless marriage. Yesterday, she asked me to meet her. She was with him. The audacity. She looked totally broken and he looked smug and angry and he didn't even want to look at me. She asked me to think of all the people that would be hurt if this came out and said that they will end their affair and promise to never do it again. He got upset and said, or we could just tell everyone and stop hiding. She got angry and told him to shut up. I don't know what to do. She said she just kept her husband's secret because he's embarrassed and he is very possessive and jealous. I noticed he is the jealous type, so he didn't agree to open marriage. She swore it was over with this other guy too and showed me texts when they had a huge fight because he actually thinks I should tell her husband so they could be together, but I don't know. He's given her a Cartier love ring that she still has, and when I confronted her, she said she couldn't throw an expensive ring but she will donate it. She wears it in a chain underneath her clothes. I'm sorry this is getting long, but I wanted to include all the details. Hope you can give me an honest judgment. Would I be the arsehole if I told my sister's husband? I think this whole thing is wrong and the cheated parties need to know the truth, but it will hurt brother-in-law. But crazy but not lazy says, not the arsehole. He looks smug and angry. He's not in a sexless marriage, he's just a cheater that has been caught and is challenging you to tell. She looked totally broken because she is a cheater that was caught. Both of their spouses have the right to know what is going on. Your brother-in-law did not agree to an open marriage and I doubt her lover's wife did either. Careless League says you would not be the arsehole. It's really very simple. Relationships are only consenting so as long as all parties involved have full disclosure about all sexual and romantic partners. The husband is currently in a relationship where his consent is being violated because he is not aware of the fact that his partner has other sexual and romantic partners. Even with seeing those texts and emails, all you really know about their relationship is what your sister has chosen to show you, which may not be the full story. Personally, if I was in that position, I would tell her she has 1 week to figure out how she's going to tell him, or I would be telling him. Allura says, not the arsehole morally. Now that's out of the way, the real question should be, is this worth my relationship with my sister? Because if you decide to tell, that relationship is going in the trash and it's on its way to the nearest landfill. Or she could switch it on you somehow. Either way, you and your sister's relationship will never be the same after this. Hot Pot Honey says, personally, I've always been a firm believer in staying out of other people's marriages. Your intentions may be noble, but putting yourself in the middle of 1, possibly 2 marriages could end up really biting you in the ass. Brother-in-law may be impotent, but he's not stupid. His wife's newfound happiness after years of depression has not escaped his notice. You can be sure of that. His medical condition is a wild card in this scenario. His reaction to your knowledge of this personal medical info on top of his wife's infidelity could send him off the deep end. Then there is his affair partner and his wife. You don't know these people at all. You have no idea how a affair partner will react to you interfering with him and his side piece, let alone potentially ruining his marriage. As for his wife, she might be appreciative, but then she may be a psycho and lash out at you for breaking her world apart. There are so many red flags and unknown variables here that you may just want to keep quiet and let your sister blow up her own life. It's going to happen eventually, most likely sooner than later. Remember, no good deed goes unpunished. Good luck. So Opie gave a couple of comments as well and responded to some people. So in response to someone saying the brother-in-law being controlling and abusive, Opie says he's not abusing her. About 5 years ago, he slapped her while angry, and she made his life living hell by leaving and not telling him or any of us where she was. He was so broken and he apologized for weeks before she forgave him. She has a hard boundary about abuse and he found out the hard way. He would never hurt her again. Opie gives more info on that situation and said she said it was just a slap when they were arguing and she disrespected him and said something hurtful. She didn't say any details other than this back then, but I'm guessing it was about sex and his impotence and that she must have said something hurtful. I'm not defending him slapping her, but just retelling my sister's version. It wasn't abuse and he has never laid his hand on her before or after. She didn't consider it hitting or beating, just a slap when he was angry. Her words, not mine. She left him and he learned the severity of what he did and was very remorseful, and he apologized a million times. The OP comes in with their first update, which says, I just wanted to come here and update everyone that I've told my brother-in-law about the affair. I've read all your comments and thank you so much for the insight. I had to do what would make me sleep at night. I love my sister, but she must have known that I couldn't just live with the guilt. I've been cheated on by someone I loved, and I know how shitty and selfish she must be to cheat. I also know that if I could do it again, I would want to know this time too, because while the pain was enormous, I still feel lucky now that I found out. My sister has called me like 20 times, but I didn't answer. She texts me, do you feel better right now? How could you do this to me? I loved you, and you ruined my life. I didn't answer her. I wanted to answer that she was the one who ruined her life, but I didn't answer her. My parents are shocked and angry, but not with me. Brother-in-law called and told them everything, and he talked about plans that maybe sister and he will move back to his hometown. He's devastated and broken. I hope they can move on from this together or separately, it doesn't matter, but that they move on and find real happiness and not at the cost of other people like it is now. Opie updates one more time and says still getting a lot of messages about an update about my sister and her situation. I thank you for being so sympathetic and worried about my sister. I might have painted my brother-in-law to be abusive to my sister and I regret that. I just wanted to be transparent as I could because they're not here to tell their side of the story, so I was trying to do my best to take in my sister's and her husband's point of view. They are fine. My brother-in-law is very hurt and destroyed, but he assured me that he wasn't angry with me and that I did the right thing. Truth hurts sometimes is what he said. He's planning on taking a break from his work and maybe go back home for a while. My sister is fine and not hurt. She doesn't talk to me and I get that, but she is not harmed in any way more than her heart. Let's face it, it was of her own doing. I think she knows that because that's what she told my parents. Her husband has suggested that they move back to his hometown because I don't think he can trust her staying in the same city as her lover. And as he said, he can't follow and spy on her all his life. But he is willing to forgive her because he loves her. My parents are very angry with my sister. They're not angry with me, however. The only thing they thought I could have done right, or the only thing they thought I could have done right differently, is that I should have told them before I told my brother-in-law, because then they would have had their own way to make my sister admit what she's done to her husband. At least it would have come from her. As her lover. I don't know he's married, as I said in my previous post. I didn't have the details, but I know that my brother-in-law has texted him and told him to keep away from his wife. I've been on both his and my wife's Instagram accounts, and it seems like the wife knows now. I don't know if she'll take him back or not the way he acted. The way he acted on our meeting, he didn't seem to care either way. Boy, I hope he doesn't have a prenup, and she takes him for all he's got. That's all I have for today. I won't be making these frequent updates. If anything of significant happens, we will be updated in the future, but right now I'm logging off. Thank you for listening and thank you for all supporting me. I know what I did wasn't the nicest or the kindest to my most beloved sister, but I had to do what I believed to be right. And you don't have to do with me. Peace and love. And the final comment from OP said, when I told her that I'm going to tell him, she never once told me she was scared of him or that he would hurt her. This after she was willing to divulge her biggest secret. If he is secretly abusive too, why didn't she tell me? She tried everything to emotionally manipulate me into not exposing her. Hell, even not abused women would have used this excuse to silence others, and believe me, she did everything to manipulate me to feel sorry for her. Abuse would have worked. Just answer me this simple question, I beg you. And there was a lot of people still talking about the slap and abuse below that story as well. But what do you guys make of this one? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. So just a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved in today's stories. Your love, your support, your time always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much for being involved, and hopefully I will see you in the next one. Take care and much love.